What's good? It's your boy Fanon. Gonna talk about a little of Canelo Alvarez and Floyd Mayweather. Interesting article came out today in badlefthook.com where Senator Harry Reid, as a retired senator from the state of Nevada, was interviewed, and he talked about conversations that he had had with Floyd Mayweather Jr. leading up to the first Canelo Alvarez, to the only Floyd Mayweather Jr. Canelo fight, and where he talked about Canelo and performance-enhancing drugs back in 2013. Now, before I do that, I want to ask, I'm going to have a live stream later today, just before the fight that's coming up tonight on Showtime between Lara, Hurd, DeGale, and Truax, and Williams, and Gallimore. Should be a great night of fights. Definitely going to be doing a live stream for it. So please subscribe and hit the bell icon, because I'm definitely trying to push more and more of the subjects that we discuss in live streams, so that we can have a real-time conversation and I can answer questions or have conversations with people, real time. And the best way to do that is on a live stream. And because I don't always plan them out at a specific time, the best way to know when they take place is to attend the live streams, or to hit the bell icon, and that way you can be notified of it. So, just straight off the bat, Canelo Alvarez, according to Senator Reid, retired Senator Reid believed that Mayweather believed that Canelo Alvarez was on performance-enhancing drugs when he fought Canelo, and that the reason that he didn't take it, that he didn't say anything about it, because he felt that Mayweather thought that would affect the money that he could make on the fight. So even though he thought that he was on something, he went on ahead and fight him anyway. So this is what it says in the article, and we'll talk to it about it now. This Mayweather will join also Lara, Angulo, Jared Hurd, and several other boxers who are not buying the tainted meat story from Canelo Alvarez. And a lot of people I think could be reacting to the news right now, but for this to be something that Mayweather said in confidence to a senator in Las Vegas 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, man, it sheds light on some stuff. He said, "I thought GGG won the first fight." I'll start in the middle of the article because it's a pretty long article. Said then Senator Reid was asked about more current events, namely Canelo Alvarez GGG fight. He said, "I thought GGG won the first fight. That's me," said Reid. Then a mini bombshell after he said Mayweather always felt Canelo was on something. He said, "I'm going to go ahead and fight him. Mayweather was interested in money, and he thought that it would hurt the purse. He went on ahead and fought the guy and toyed with him." In a clarifying sentence in the article, the author says, "I think Reid meant that if he went at Canelo and labeled him a PED cheat, that would impact the revenue for their outing." So then Reid continues and steps forward and said, I'm glad the Nevada State Athletic Commission stepped forward and hope they do something that will allow the penalty to be retro and go back to when it first came out. So in that 6 months or so, they can have the fight. Talking about Gennady Golovkin and Canelo. The world deserves a fight. These two guys want to fight each other, and I hope that can be worked out. Maybe this fall they can have the fight. In the meantime, Gennady Golovkin can fight somebody else. Reid believes that the suspension will be finalized on April 18th. Will be a 6-month stint and allow him to fight GGG in the early fall matchups, is what we've heard. So pretty much what he's saying is that they believe that Canelo Alvarez is going to get a 6-month suspension. But the bigger thing in that is the revelation that Floyd Mayweather thought that Canelo Alvarez had been on something before that as well. Now, this is also something that was also said by, of course, Paulie Malignaggi. Paulie Malignaggi was in an interview with, I think it's Helen Yee's channel, where he went on and he talked about performance-enhancing drugs in boxing. He made mention to the fact that, he was one of the first people to get out and say that he thought that Manny Pacquiao was on something, as did Floyd Mayweather Jr., but that a lot of people just didn't care about it. So he wasn't going to really go out of his way, he being Paulie Malignaggi, to really go out of his way to talk about the other people that he believed were on performance-enhancing drugs. So Paulie Malignaggi said, if people think, people that didn't know that Canelo Alvarez was on something before he popped dirty in February. I think it was February 17th, and then maybe a week later, he popped dirty twice. Paulie Malignaggi said if people didn't understand or didn't know that he was, then, whatever. Basically, I think he called them some morons. Said people were morons if they didn't notice that ahead of time. So, then you had Heard earlier today in an interview yesterday asked about it. And he said that, he didn't believe it. Lara said he didn't believe it. Angulo said that he didn't believe it as in didn't believe that it was an accident. So, if with all of this said, Canelo Alvarez did not test positive. But if it winds up that it's just pretty much a 6-month suspension and he only gets his fight pushed back a little bit, pushed back from May to September, I'm not sure what real type of deterrence that is. You know what I mean? I'm not sure whether or not that's going to be anything where it's going to discourage somebody that's, that really has the ability to make a lot of money in fights from taking performance enhancing drugs. Because there's two reasons why you punish somebody for breaking rules. One is that you want to actually punish the person for doing something that they did that they shouldn't have done, right? Just to be punitive. And that's the most obvious type of thing. But the other one is that you want to use, oftentimes they say that you want to have punishments to deter other people from doing the same thing. So, I mean, if it is pretty much an open secret that Canelo Alvarez was, or at least, that Canelo Alvarez was on something, right? He's a kind of a shorter guy, fighting at 154 pounds. He moves up to 160 pounds. Looks like a cornerback, right? When he gets into the ring. And God dog, man. I mean, God dog, how could you possibly, it's so hard to believe that meat excuse just off the fact that this guy makes enough money where he should be able to have where he should be able to have a chef. But now that you have, other people coming out and saying that they've been thinking this for years. Floyd Mayweather Jr. is somebody that, I get on him every once in a while, but I got a lot of respect for him, man. And he's somebody that was watching Canelo very closely. He's also somebody that was promoting Canelo Alvarez, right? So he was promoting Canelo Alvarez when Canelo was still with Golden Boy, when Floyd was still fighting in co-promotional deals with Golden Boy Promotions, when he had Canelo on his undercards. He had him fight on a co-main event with him, and then eventually, fought him himself. So he's somebody that's been in close proximity with Canelo Alvarez for a long time. So for him to say that 5 years before the guy tests positive, along with the fact that the guy had all that, has all that money and tested positive, even, with Mexican, with tainted meat, just seems too easy. But hey, man, it is what it is. But the World Boxing Council, President Mauricio Suleiman, definitely is still supporting him. and looking forward to him getting back into the ring pretty much as soon as possible. Now, the Nevada State, and let me read what he says, man. He's like, Canelo and his team proceed to the Nevada Commission investigation after positive tests results of low levels of Clenbuterol. What Saul wants is to clear his name. His trajectory has been affected with this doping issue, says Suleiman. We know he's a clean athlete. As we said, we have stated that we will support him. We all have the right to be heard, and we'll wait for the final determination. After the fight between Saul Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin was canceled on May 5th, Suleiman hoped that the rematch can be held in September, as it is the second national date of the year celebrated. We'll have to wait to depend on the determination of Nevada so they can fight in September. So, just like Floyd Mayweather said, Floyd went on ahead with the fight because there was all that money in the fight. So, if he didn't feel like that, I mean, he said he went on ahead and did it. So now you got the WBA taking the same stance on it. Hey, man, got a lot of money in it. Can't wait to get Canelo back in here in September. You're going to also have Canelo Alvarez doing the same thing. You're going to have the same thing with Gennady Golovkin. As much as Gennady Golovkin said and got on him, jumped on Canelo about his stuff, he's going to do the same thing as well. He'll be ready right there in September in order to take that fight. He tried his best to make sure that he would be in the position to have a Canelo fight by picking a guy to fight in his replacement for Canelo on May 5th that was so overmatched that the Nevada State Athletic Commission wouldn't even sanction the fight. So, so I'm going to be surprised. I would be highly doubtful that Gennady Golovkin is going to fight the other people that have been mentioned, right? Like Demetrius Andre. Demetrius Andre had said that he had gotten the team. He had been in contact with, I don't know if he said he got in contact with Tom Loeffler or if he got in contact with Abel Sanchez, but who exactly contacted Demetrius Andre. But Demetrius Andre said that he had been contacted, had been in contact with Gennady Golovkin's team about him potentially having that fight. But slim and none on that, man, because if Demetrius Andre gets in there with Gennady Golovkin, there's a chance that Gennady Golovkin can lose. And if Gennady Golovkin loses, then there goes the $100 million payday for Nevada State Athletic Commission. There goes the $100 million fight from Vegas. So Loeffler loses out, Golden Boy loses out, the hotels and casinos lose out, the state of Nevada loses out, the World Boxing Council, the WBC loses out, and the WBA loses out. So even though you've got guys dating back to 2013 believing that Canelo Alvarez is dirty, right? That being Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Malignaggi, you have him test positive, back-to-back tests for Clenbuterol. And you're going to have a suspension that's probably not going to, even though the law says 9 months to 23 months. What is it? Between 15 and 30% of your purse. We'll see if any of that happens. Or whether or not the Nevada State Athletic Commission, because if he gets held off 6 months and he doesn't have a hefty fine, that's just a slap on the wrist. That's just a slap on the wrist and a postponement of a major payday, because then he'll still wind up making a big payday. Because after he comes back, he's still going to have his fan base. He's still going to have his anti-fan base, because I have a hard time believing Gennady Golovkin has, a real fan base. I think, Gennady Golovkin is probably going to have, an anti-Canelo fan base, because, if they try to put this fight on pay-per-view for Canelo Alvarez. More than likely it's going to flop, man, because I don't see him having a lot of. I mean, maybe outside of the United States he does, but I've just never known him to do particularly good numbers in the United States. But all that said, Gennady Golovkin has to be there for Canelo Alvarez to get all those belts. So I don't expect Gennady Golovkin to take a fight on May 5th against anybody that's any major competition. Jermall Charlo I know that Ronnie Shields offered up Jermall Charlo and he offered up Lara, but this is the 5th of May. So Charlo fights in, I think, the last week of April. So unless, he was willing to pull out of that fight and fight on the 5th, which I would think he would be, that's not going to happen. But if he throws Jermall Charlo in there with Canelo, like I said, the Canelo fight goes pop. Because more than likely Jermall Charlo is going to beat Gennady Golovkin. Because Gennady Golovkin is, 35, 36 years old? He didn't look very good against Danny Jacobs. A lot of people say he beat Canelo Alvarez, but, they acting like this was some situation where he beat up, where he knocked down. I never saw a knockdown. I never saw Canelo Alvarez hurt. Regardless, he's not going to fight Jermall Charlo because that blows the money. Just like they weren't going to suspend him for 9 months to 23 months. There's 2 years because that means that is $400 million worth of revenue that goes away. I'm sure I have to suspect they're doing around $100 million a fight. Because if they do a million pay-per-views is just a million pay-per-views is $70 million. The gate's $30 million. That's not talking about concession. That's not talking about gambling. That's not talking about the hotels and, the hotel fees, for people staying there. So just like Floyd Mayweather Jr. said, he was willing to fight because of the money. This is going because of this fight is going to, Canelo Alvarez is going to get a slap on the wrist because of the money. Gennady Golovkin isn't going to take a serious challenger in between the two because of the money. HBO is still going to televise the fight of somebody that's tested positive, dirty, because of the money. Just like the WBA, somebody else who because I said something about Mauricio Suleiman, but the WBA did the same thing with Canelo. Just say, yeah, he's good to go. He's good to go. We believe him. We stand behind him 100%. Yeah, we know he tested positive twice, but this is the first time he's ever tested positive. I mean, he's been tested positive over 90 times before that. Yeah. So how many times was Lance Armstrong tested? How many times was it before Lance Armstrong got tested? I mean, I don't think anybody's fool enough to believe that the only dirty people or only people taking juice in professional boxing are the people that get caught. But you got, who cares, man? Who cares, right? You have Anthony Joshua he's got 30 days to finish his negotiation with a drug cheat. Nobody's even mentioned. I haven't even heard it mentioned. Has Eddie Hearn said anything about, hold on, why are you mandating we fight a drug cheat in Alexander Povetkin? Not 2 words about it from Eddie Hearn. Not 2 words about it from Anthony Joshua. Unification gets held up in the heavyweight division so that a notorious drug cheat can get a shot at 3 of the major belts. He's got a billionaire. I think he does have a billionaire promoter, doesn't he? That's the rumor that I've heard. So there's a lot of money in there. There's a lot of money in that fight, right? And more importantly, there's money in the next fight because, hey, man, we'd rather give a shot at, the WBA would rather give a shot at a known drug cheat to fight Anthony Joshua for 2 or 3 of the major belts than have him fight for a unification with the WBC champ, who's also never popped dirty, right? And has had the same guy that they're going to allow him to fight pop dirty, trying to fight for the WBC title. So, it is what it is, man. And, I appreciate, Senator Reid coming out with this information 5 years after the fact that Floyd Mayweather Jr. thought he was dirty. And Canelo and Malignaggi coming out after the fact saying he knew he was dirty. Why everybody else does the same thing, nothing about it. The WBC is not going to do anything about it. The WBA is not doing anything about it. The IBF's not doing anything about it. And the Nevada State Athletic Commission is going to slap him on the wrist and let the fight go on in 3 months. Anyway, it is what it is. And with that, I'm out. Peace.